Over 40,000 tons of steel are fighting the ocean. Waves slam into the hull. The deck is pitching like an elevator. It's night. It's raining sideways. And somewhere out there in the darkness, a United States Navy pilot is flying a $70 million jet toward a runway that is only a few hundred feet long and moving. They line up. They see the lights. They slam down on the deck, and the jet doesn't stop. The hook catches nothing. The aircraft screams down the carrier at full power, hurtling toward the edge of the ship with nothing but black ocean ahead. So what actually happens when a United States Navy pilot misses a carrier landing in rough seas? A carrier landing is often called a controlled crash. An aircraft carrier's flight deck is short, narrow, and moving. To land, a pilot has to fly a precise approach, snag one of 4 steel arresting wires with a tail hook, and go from around 120 to 150 knots to 0 in just a couple of seconds. Miss those wires, and you do not really land. You just touch the ship and leave again. Now add rough seas. The bow rises and falls. The landing area, angled off to the side, is physically moving under you as you aim for it. The horizon is hard to see. The whole picture outside the cockpit is unstable. To manage that, the pilot flies the meatball, a glowing optical landing system that shows the correct glide slope and tracks lineup lights to stay centered. Landing signal officers, called LSOs, are experienced pilots on the deck. They watch every second and call tiny corrections in power, pitch, and bank. In rough seas, the deck can move several feet in the time it takes to cross the last few hundred meters. The ship's systems try to compensate, but the ocean does not always cooperate. Sometimes, the safest move is not to land at all. That's where the wave-off comes in. A wave-off is when the landing is aborted before the wheels ever touch. It can be called by the pilot, by the landing signal officers, or automatically if something is unsafe. In rough seas, the deck might suddenly pitch, another aircraft might not be clear, or a gust of wind might shove the jet off the perfect path at the last moment. When that happens, you hear the call, wave off, power. The response is instant. Throttles to full afterburner, nose up, fly away from the ship, and re-enter the pattern. In bad conditions, a pilot might get several wave-offs in a row. Each one spikes the heart rate and burns fuel, but it is far better than forcing a marginal landing onto a moving postage stamp. Then there's the true miss, when you do touch down and still don't stop. A bolter is what most people picture when they hear missed carrier landing. The jet lands on the deck, but the hook does not catch a wire. Maybe the hook bounced. Maybe the jet was a little long or a little short. Maybe the deck moved at the worst possible moment. To an outside observer, it looks terrifying. The jet slams down, the wheels screech, and then the plane keeps rolling, racing toward the end of the ship. Here is what really happens. The instant the jet hits the deck, the pilot is already at full power. That is not a reaction, it is procedure. Navy pilots land with the throttles high, so that if the hook catches, they pull power back and stop. If the hook misses and they bolter, the engines are already producing maximum thrust, so they can fly off the deck and climb away. There is no pause. No, I will add power, because I missed. It is full power the entire time the wheels are on deck. So in a bolter, the jet hits the deck at high power. The hook misses the wires. The jet shoots down the remaining deck with the nose lifting, and the aircraft rockets off the end of the ship and back into the air. For a trained Navy pilot, this is not a freak accident. It is a standard, practiced outcome. Rough seas make that outcome more likely. The ship is rising and falling with the swell, pitching and rolling, so the exact height and position of the wires are constantly changing. Even on a good approach, the ship might heave up just as the hook passes over the wires, or drop just as the jet touches down. On the deck, the landing gear hits harder. The bounce is bigger. The hook is more likely to skip. Rough seas simply increase the odds of wave-offs and bolters. That doesn't mean things are out of control. It means the system is doing its job, pushing pilots to go around instead of gambling on bad landings. So you just boltered in rough seas. Your heart is pounding. You are in full burner, launching off the end of a ship that briefly filled your entire windscreen. What happens next? You climb out and get a positive rate. You accelerate and clean up the jet. You fly the bolter pattern back into the landing circuit. You confirm the bolter with the landing signal officers, get your place in line, and start scanning everything. Fuel, engine performance, warning lights, any strange vibrations that might mean the slam onto the deck bent something important. Then you reset mentally. You let go of the last attempt and focus on the next one. Carrier aviation is built on that mindset. Analyze, adjust, try again. Most wave-offs and bolters are just part of business. But add a few more factors, and things get serious. Every pass burns fuel. Every go-around pushes you closer to bingo, the minimum fuel needed to divert. Night, bad weather, and fatigue all stack the odds. When that combination gets too risky, the carrier and air wing commanders have options. They can send you to a tanker to top off. They can divert you to a runway on land. They can pause recoveries until the deck motion calms down. The goal is simple: bring the pilot home safely, even if home tonight is not the carrier. From the outside, missing the landing sounds like failure. Inside naval aviation, a bolter or a wave-off can be a sign of good judgment. Before a pilot ever lands on a carrier at sea, they have practiced hundreds of carrier-style landings, wave-offs, and bolters on shore and in simulators, so that the safe choice becomes automatic when the sea is ugly and the deck is moving. So what really happens when a US Navy pilot misses a carrier landing in rough seas? They slam down, miss the wires, light the burners, and blast back into the sky. The ship adjusts. The crew resets. Landing signal officers talk them back around. They take a breath. They try again. What looks from the outside like a near disaster is, on the inside, proof that the system works. Pilots trained to react instantly, crews ready for every outcome, and procedures designed to save lives, not pride. The ocean is unforgiving. The ship is moving. The weather does not care. But every time that pilot comes back around, lines up with a deck that is heaving under them, and plants the jet on the wires, it is a victory, not just of technology, but of discipline, teamwork, and courage. If this gave you a new appreciation for what carrier pilots and deck crews deal with just to get home safely, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out.